Hi, I'm Joe Miller. Welcome to Beginner Hip Series. This is a series of classes that will help you, even if you're brand new to yoga practice, to develop a little bit more strength in the muscles of the hips, more endurance in those muscles, and also to help you to work a little bit on your hip flexibility. In this particular class, we're going to be focusing on hip flexibility, and you'll want to have a couple of props close by. A blanket, so I'm sitting on my blanket, and that's because it makes it a little bit easier for me to be able to sit upright. And I would suggest that you do the same thing because it'll probably be helpful for you too. You'll also want to have a couple of yoga blocks and a strap. So you can get all of that equipment organized and set up, and then we'll begin in just a simple upright cross-legged seat. As I said before, I think for most people, it's helpful to sit up on something. Where most of us are not so used to sitting on the floor. Maybe we did it as toddlers, but once we started sitting in chairs, many of us kind of lose the knack of being able to sit comfortably on the floor. So one thing that can make it easier for you is to elevate your hips. So I've got a blanket here, a bolster, a cushion, whatever works for you to elevate your hips to make it a little bit easier to sit upright. And then just notice which shin you've got in front. And you probably have some habit around that. I do, certainly. Most people do. So this is probably kind of the way that you would habitually organize yourself for sitting cross-legged. So just take note of that, and we'll switch to the crossing of the legs in a few moments. And then rest your hands on your knees. And just take a few moments to feel the weight of your body pressing your pelvis into the floor. The part of your pelvis you sit on is your sitting bones. There's these two kind of curved bones shaped like this on the bottom of the pelvis. You can even feel them. So if you just lift one cheek and kind of slide your hand under and just gently sit down in your fingers, you'll feel that sitting bone. You can try it on both sides. So just have a sense of the shape of those bones. So sitting with the weight falling as much as possible through the centers of the sitting bones. So how do you know where that is? Well, I think one thing that can be helpful for finding that is just to start with a little bit of movement. So if you place your hands on your knees and start to round your back, so you're kind of looking down into your lap, you'll feel that you roll a little bit backwards on your sitting bones. You can even kind of hook your hands over your knees to keep yourself from falling backwards here. So just feeling how you've rolled backwards on your sitting bones. And now just lightly with your hands, you can pull in the knees to roll forward over the sitting bones. At the same time, let your chest lift. So it's just a slight arch, a lift of the chest here, an arch in your back. And then as you exhale, you'll let your back round, look into your lap, and inhale, roll forward over your sitting bones, letting your chest lift. We'll do this a few more times. So exhaling, rounding. This time, as you arch your back, slide your hands up your thighs towards your hips. And then as you exhale and you round your spine, slide your hands out to your knees. Again, you can catch hold of the knees to keep yourself from falling backward. And slide the hands back in as you lift the chest. Exhale, rounding the spine. One more time, slide the hands back in, lift your chest, and then bring your hands back behind you. And then you can just lean back into the hands a little bit. It might be more comfortable to have the fingers pointing out to be able to lean back. Lean back enough that you can pick your feet up off the floor and change the crossing of your legs. So put the other leg in front, the non-habitual crossing, and then bring yourself upright. If this really doesn't feel like it's comfortable for you to sit this way, just go back to the previous way. The primary thing here is you want to be able to sit comfortably. Again, hands on the knees, and we'll do a few more of those seated cat-cow movements. So roll backwards on your sitting bones, looking into your lap, kind of hang off the knees of the hands, and then you can pull the chest forward and up, arching the back as you roll forward over the sitting bones. Exhale, rounding. Inhale up. We'll start to add the sliding of the hands in. So as you exhale, slide the hands to the knees, rounding the back. As you inhale, slide the hands up the thighs towards the hips. And again, exhale, hands slide out towards the knees, rounding. Slide the hands back in towards you, arch in the back. All right. And then we'll release the hands down. And then from here, we're going to come over onto all fours. So onto your hands and your knees. I find it's generally a little bit more comfortable for me if I have some support or cushioning underneath my knees. So you might want to unfold your blanket to support your knees. And then you're placing yourself so that your knees are underneath your hips, your wrists are underneath your shoulders. And we'll move again through a few rounds of cat and cow in this position. So as you inhale, you arch the spine. So your belly drops down, your chest lifts, and if you were seated, you'd be rolling forward over your sitting bones. And then as you exhale, you round your back toward the ceiling, so you're looking more or less back between your thighs. Inhale, arching the spine, look forward, and exhale, rounding your back, looking back between your thighs. A few more times like this. Just continue following your breath. I say kind of to, pay attention to where you're looking, but the key here isn't really to look at any place in particular. So please don't strain your neck at all. In fact, if anything, minimize the movement of your head so that you can really focus on the movement of your pelvis. Right? Could you find a way to move so that it feels like your head and your pelvis move more or less the same amount? All right, and then the next time you arch the spine, walk the hands forward, maybe the length of one of your own hands further forward, and then begin to move your hips back toward your heels, towards child's pose. Now, just go back as far as feels comfortable. So it may be, maybe this is as far as your knees bend, or maybe this, or maybe this. Really doesn't matter. You're just exploring kind of how much the knees can bend and how much the hips can fold comfortably and easily. And then come forward again and move the hips back, folding at the hips towards child's pose. And one more time, coming forward. Please don't go any more deeply than feels easy and comfortable for you. All right, and now coming forward again onto all fours. Raise your right leg into the air behind you. And then as you exhale, step your right foot to the outside of your right hand. So you're in a kind of a wide, low lunge. And then let your hips begin to come forward. Again, I think it's really useful to have some cushioning underneath the left knee so it's comfortable for you. So please don't try to suffer through any discomfort in the knee. And if it's really not comfortable to have the knee on the ground, you can always just tuck the toes under and lift the knee. And then in this position, we'll start to lean a little bit more into the left hand. Bring the right hand to the right knee and press down with your right hand through your right shin into the floor and use that pressure to help you to twist toward the right. So you're turning your chest open toward the right. Take a couple of breaths here. You might also feel some sensation of an opening in the front of the left hip. That's fine. You don't want to feel like you're moving into any discomfort in the hip, but we are opening the front of the left hip as well. All right, and then we'll bring the right hand down to the inside of the right foot, and we'll just step the right knee back, coming back onto all fours. And then we'll do the same thing now with the left leg, so you can reach the left leg back behind you. And then as you exhale, you'll step the left foot around to the outside of the left hand. You might need to adjust your right knee back a little bit farther. Generally, it's a little more comfortable if you can be more towards the top of the knee rather than directly on top of the kneecap. And then press really firmly down through your right hand, left hand onto your left knee, turning your chest open toward your left. Try not to fall into your right hand, so it's really very active pressure through the right hand into the ground. In fact, the more active you make that pressure, the less pressure there is on the wrist. But if it's really too much for you, another option is you can make a fist. You could be up on the fingertips of the right hand, whatever feels comfortable for you. Turning the chest toward the left. All right, and then let's bring the left hand down, bring the left knee back alongside the right, and then again, as you exhale, we'll just move the hips back towards child's pose, and we'll take a couple of breaths here. If your forehead doesn't reach the ground, not a problem. You can support your forehead on your block. You can roll up a blanket and put it between your hips and your heels, if you need a little extra support there. And again, please only go so deep as feels really easy and comfortable for your knees and your hips. And then bring yourself forward once again. And then we'll raise the right leg back behind. And as you exhale, this time, see if you can step the right foot forward between the hands. You might need to wiggle the foot up a little bit to bring the knee on top of the shin. Climb your hands up onto your right knee this time. And then allow the hips to begin to come forward again, just until you feel that there's a little sensation of an opening or a lengthening through the front of the left hip. Control that sense of opening with the pressure of your right foot into the floor. So the more you push the right foot down into the floor, the more you'll back yourself up out of it, and the less of a stretch there'll be in the front of the left hip. All right, take a few breaths here. And now reach your left arm up toward the ceiling. Staying upright, just start to bend a little bit over towards your right, and you might feel even a little more sensation of an opening or elongation through the front of the left hip as you do this. And then we'll come back up to vertical. And you can place the hands down for a moment. You're going to pivot on your left knee, so the left toes are pointing towards the right side of the mat. And then resting the right forearm on the right thigh, allow the hips again to sink towards the front of the mat. Only now, rather than opening the front of the left hip, you're really focusing a little bit more on the inner thigh. Again, making sure, please, that this is comfortable for your knee, so you put as much cushioning as you need there. And if it really doesn't work for you to be able to do this, then you skip this. All right, let's see if we bring the left arm alongside the left ear. Lengthen all the way from the left knee out through the tip of the left middle finger. And then we'll come upright. If you took the first class in this series, you're already familiar with this. We did that there. We'll lower the left hand down to the floor. Extend the right leg and point the right toes toward the left side of the mat. And then you'll bring your right arm alongside your right ear and lengthening all the way from the right heel out to the tip of the right middle finger. And then we'll bring the hands down. And then from there, we'll just walk around, pivot around into a lunge. You might need to readjust where the left knee is. Bring the right knee back. And then we'll do the same thing with the left leg. So stepping the left foot forward. Start by climbing the hands up onto the left knee. The hips come forward. And just until you find that sensation of an opening through the front of the right hip. And then bring the right arm up toward the ceiling. And we'll take a little side bend over towards the left. Again, just until you feel some sensation of a elongation through the front of the right hip. All right, and then we'll come upright. Again, you'll bring the hands to the floor, and walking around towards the side of the mat, you can pivot the right toes to point towards the left. Bring yourself upright so your left knee is bent. The legs are open, more or less about kind of making like a square shape or a box shape. Resting the left forearm on the left thigh. You just allow the hips to sink a little bit towards the front of the mat. If this is something that, as I said, really doesn't work for your knee, another option would be you can always move into an extended side angle position. We'll do that in a few moments, but that is another option for you. And then bring the right arm alongside the right ear. All right, and then we'll bring the hands down to the floor. You'll walk the right hand toward the back of the mat, extend the left leg, turn the left toes so they're pointing towards the right side of the mat. I need to bring my right hand a little farther out away from me, I think. So I have my wrist under my shoulder, and then extend the left arm alongside the left ear, and lengthening all the way from the left heel to the tip of the left middle finger. All right, and then we'll bring the hands down. We're just going to shift around, reposition, set yourself up onto all fours. And then from here, we'll raise the hips up into the air, moving into downward facing dog. You can set the blanket off to the side. So you're in an upside down V position. Your knees can be a little bit bent. This is a deep fold at the hips. That's what we're looking for. So we're bringing the front of the pelvis and the front of the thighs toward each other, inviting the sitting bones to lift toward the ceiling. So you put as much of a bend in your knees as you need to be able to do that. And then just start to walk the hands back towards the feet. Hang over your legs for a couple of breaths. And then placing the hands on the knees, reach the chest forward, so finding a long spine here. And then stand all the way upright, coming to stand in Tadasana. And then you can come to stand in the middle of the mat. Open the legs wide. So you're standing in a parallel straddle with maybe the length of one of your own legs between your two legs. And then we'll turn the left toes in just a little bit and pivot the right toes out 90 degrees. And then bend the right knee into Warrior Two. So the inner thighs widening apart from one another, widen the arms apart from one another, and look out over the left fingertips. And then from here, we'll place the right forearm onto the right thigh and bring the left arm forward, and then bring the left arm alongside the left ear, and turning the chest open toward the ceiling as much as you can. Use your left forearm on your left thigh to kind of keep the left knee positioned on top of the ankle. So not letting the knee sort of drift inwardly. Press really strongly into the outside of the right foot. And then from there, we're going to lower the hands down to the floor. And you can lift up the left heel. Take your blocks and bring them on either side of your left foot. And as you exhale, lengthen your left leg and fold over your left leg. So your left leg might not straighten all the way. That's perfectly fine. Keep as much of a bend in the knee as you need to. The idea is you're just kind of looking to see how much can the left leg extend easily and comfortably. Focus on your breathing here. And now rebend your left knee. And you can bring the hands down to the floor, pivot on the left heel, so you're coming back into that kind of parallel straddle position with the toes pointing towards the right side of the mat. And have the hands on the floor or your hands on your blocks. And lengthen your chest forward as you inhale. And then as you exhale, you'll fold forward, releasing the head down towards the floor. Keep the inner thighs lifting, not so much that you're rolling all the way to the outer ankles, but enough that you feel like you can keep the arches of the feet lifting. All right, and then inhale, extend your chest forward. And then you can just start to heel toe the feet in towards each other until the feet are about hips width apart. Again, lengthen the chest forward. Exhale, fold. Inhale, bend your knees and reach your chest forward. Exhale, your hands to your hips and stand all the way up. All right, let's do the same thing on the other side. So you're going to open the legs into a wide straddle, starting off with parallel feet. Turn now the left toes in a little bit. Pivot the right toes out 90 degrees. And then bending the front knee, we'll come into Warrior Two. So coming into Warrior Two on the opposite side. The thighs are separating away from one another. And then we'll bring the right forearm onto the right thigh, left arm forward, and then bring the left arm alongside the left ear. And lengthening the whole left side. And then from there, we'll bring the hands down. Again, you'll have the blocks. Place them on either side of the left foot. Lengthen the left leg. And fold over. Taking a few breaths here. And again, I think I said the wrong leg. You're lengthening the right leg. Or both legs are lengthening really, but lengthening the right leg and just seeing kind of how much the right leg can lengthen easily and comfortably. Notice if your right hip is swinging out to the right, and see if you can bring it in a little bit if you notice that, so it's in line with the right heel. All right, and then we'll rebend the right knee. We're going to take the blocks around towards the center of the mat, turn the feet to parallel once again. Start by lengthening the chest forward, and then exhaling and folding forward here. And then as you inhale, extend your chest forward. Start to heel toe your feet in towards each other until they're more or less underneath the hips. Bend the knees, reach your chest forward as you inhale. As you exhale, you might begin to lengthen the knees. Again, they don't need to straighten all the way. Take a couple of breaths here in this standing forward fold. Inhale, bend the knees and reach the chest forward. Exhale, the hands to the hips. And then inhale and stand all the way upright. All right, we can come back up to the front of the mat. Take a few moments to feel yourself in standing here. And then as you inhale, bring the arms up. And as you exhale, fold forward and bend the knees as much as you need to. Bring the hands down. Step your feet back into downward facing dog. And then lower your knees down to the floor. And we're going to come down to sit. So, come to sit with your legs out in front of you. Your hands back behind you. So you might need to point your fingers out or point the fingers backward. The idea is just kind of find a position where you can comfortably put a little bit of support into your hands without it feeling like it's stressing your wrists. And then bend your right knee and cross your right ankle over your left thigh. And then from there, we'll start to bend the left knee so that the left thigh and the right thigh are coming closer towards your chest. See if you can really be up on your sitting bones here. So, I mean, it's okay if you're rolling backward. You will be to some degree, but right, the more that you kind of fall backwards, the less the focus there'll be on the hips here. So the more that you can kind of invite the pelvis to roll a little bit forward and the chest to lift, the more you'll target the right inner thigh and the right outer hip muscles, which is what we're looking for. We'll stay here for a few breaths. You can decide how far you want to bring your left foot in towards you. So, you're again looking for some comfortable amount of sensation. And if you feel like you want to increase the sensation, you can always try flexing the left foot, and that will pull the right thigh in a little closer towards the chest. Try to keep the chest lifting at the same time. Take a few breaths here. And then we'll extend the left leg, extend the right leg, and let's switch to the other side. So crossing the left ankle over the right thigh. If you need to give your wrists a little bit of a roll or a little break, feel free to do that. Crossing the left ankle over the right thigh, you'll slide the right foot in toward you. Again, adjusting where the hands are so it feels comfortable. And keep the left foot more or less flexed, more or less like a foot you might be able to stand on. And try not to fall too far backward on the sitting bones. Like I said, you're not going to be right in the center. You'll be back behind the center of the sitting bones, but the more you can kind of roll forward, as I said, the more you'll be kind of directly focusing on the hips here, which is what we're trying to do. Keep the chest lifting, and then if you want, you could try flexing your right foot, and you might feel maybe even a little bit more intensity in the sensation. But you'll sense that, and you'll adjust as necessary. All right, good. And then we'll extend the right leg, extend the left leg. All right, and now we'll come to sit. I would suggest coming back to sit up on something, blanket, bolster, whatever is comfortable for you. Place the soles of your feet together. You can try to press the little toe sides of the feet into each other so the knees widen apart. Now, if your knees are way up in the air, you might actually investigate whether supporting your thighs would make it a little bit easier for you to be able to let go here, right? If the knees are up in the air, the inner thigh muscles are actually kind of working to hold them up. So sometimes it's actually helpful to give yourself a little bit of support there. So if you feel like you can invite the inner thigh muscles to soften or let go a little bit more with that support under the thighs of the blocks, then keep them there. If you feel like you don't really need it, then you don't need it. Bring the hands to the ankles. See if you can draw back a little bit with your hands to help your chest to lift. And then we'll just start to tilt forward over the legs, taking a few breaths here. You may not get very far. I'm not getting very far. That's fine. We're just really just focusing on this sensation of the inner thighs widening apart. Try to press the little toe sides of the feet into one another, and that will also help with that action. We'll take a few breaths here. bring yourself upright. You can use your hands to help to fold the knees in towards one another. And then come to lie down on your back. And you're going to take your strap, bend your right knee in towards your chest, loop the strap around the arch of the right foot, hold the two ends of the strap in your hands, and extend the right leg up toward the ceiling. So it doesn't matter whether the right leg is fully extended or not, but you're moving in that direction. And then, if you can comfortably do it, lengthen the left leg on the floor as well, so that you're really reaching out through both feet, lengthening out through both feet. Take a few breaths here. You may find that after a few breaths, as you exhale, that there's maybe a little bit of a sense of release in the muscles of the legs that will invite the thigh to come in a little closer towards the chest. You don't need to force that to happen, but if you sense that that's available to you, you can start to draw the thigh in. All right, and then we'll bend the right knee in towards the chest. Switch the strap over to the left foot, so wrapping around the arch of the left foot, extend the right leg. Again, you're lengthening out through both legs, like you could stand on either one of your 2 feet. No need to hold the strap really close to the foot. You want to hold it sort of where it feels like you can really allow your shoulders to relax. And I'm supporting my head with a blanket because it's a little more comfortable for me. If I didn't do that, my head would be falling backward and it would create a little sense of crunching in the back of my neck. So you don't want that. So if you find that your head is falling back at all, please feel free to support your head, put a pillow there, folded blanket, whatever you need to make this comfortable. Right? The focus is really primarily on the muscles in the back of the left leg here, feeling them lengthen. Steady, even breathing. Continue to reach out through both feet. And then you can bend the left knee towards the chest, remove the strap. Just hug both knees in towards your chest. Might feel nice to rock a little to the right and the left, so it's kind of like a little upside down child's pose. And then extend your legs long and come to rest in Shavasana or corpse pose. If having your legs fully extended is not comfortable for you, roll up a blanket, place it behind your knees, put a bolster behind the knees. You can use the blocks too. Whatever will allow you to feel like you can really rest comfortably on the floor here for the next few minutes. Let yourself sink into the support of the floor as you exhale. So I would encourage you to stay as long as you would like to in Shavasana. For right now, I'm going to leave you. But as I said, please feel free to stay longer. Give yourself a chance to rest as long as you need to. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, thanks.